It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator.
I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you could just contact me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like the show, be sure and check out our Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. We have exclusive content up there all the time, but also to all the shows you hear Monday to Friday on AM/FM radio, you can hear on Patreon without the commercials, ad-free, completely ad-free. Our archives are at Spreaker.com. I do a live show there Friday nights, 8 p.m. Also, too, you get an email notification when I put up new content, and there's a chat room, and what do you call it? Something else I was going to say, I forgot. But all the archives are up there at Spreaker.com. All right, really excited about our guest today. We have Everett Stern. Now, you could find him at everettstern.com. You could find his Twitter at Everett Stern, the number 1, Everett Stern 1, the numeral, on Twitter. He's written a book called Dark Money and Private Spies, The Everett Stern Story. If you go to his website, everettstern.com, you can also find a copy of another book, Official Michael Flynn Report to DOJ. He's got a Substack, and he runs a company called Tactical Rabbit. If you're in New York City on April 10th, or is this May 10th? No, May 10th. Okay, get the month right.
May 9th.
May 9th. Okay, that's tomorrow then. May 9th at the New York Public Library on 54th and 42nd?
Fifth Avenue and 42nd. So it's the main New York Public Library.
Right, and that's at 4 o'clock at Fifth Avenue and 42nd. Everett Stern is going to be releasing some explosive information about his connection to Charles McGonigal, this FBI agent who has just been charged with self-dealing, I guess you might call it. But Everett Stern, it's such a huge story. Tell us about yourself first. Who is Everett Stern?
Yeah, so I guess it's funny. It's hard to crystallize that, but I'm defined, I guess, online on Wikipedia as a businessman, a politician, and a whistleblower. So, I started my career. I was a candidate for clandestine service, which is field operations for the CIA. I first went out for them, the CIA, back in 2006, and then I was eventually rejected from that program. But I went on to work for HSBC Bank in 2010, and it was there that I uncovered, just massive terrorist and drug cartel financing. And I was passing information there to the CIA. I reached out to my old recruiter. I wasn't working for the agency. I was an employee of HSBC. I never worked for the government, but I was passing information to the CIA and then later on to the FBI. And my evidence led to Senate hearings and the largest fine ever against the bank. It was $1.92 billion. So that's how I first, gained some notoriety. And then, later on, I ended up running for U.S. Senate. And the big thing was this last election, and where I ran for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, I ran as a Republican. But after, I got into a huge battle with Michael Flynn and Donald Trump because of a blackmail extortion scheme having to do with the audits. So, in order to defend democracy, I testified against General Flynn to the January 6th committee, and also I represented my findings to the FBI. And as a result of me testifying against General Flynn to the January 6th committee, me presenting evidence that he was a traitor, I ended up getting sued by him for $250 million, and I countered again with $250 million. That lawsuit's now over. But and then after that, this issue with Charles McGonigal got arrested, and it was just devastating to me because he was my POC. I mean, he was my point of contact. And I've been trying to get this story out about Charles McGonigal, or not the story, but I've been trying to get information to the right people in the government. But I'm a little nervous because, who do you trust?
Yeah.
if my POC was the guy, the head of counterintelligence for the FBI, and then all of a sudden, he's most likely passing my national security intelligence to the Russians. Because Tactical Rabbit, with my company, I'm the intelligence director there and the owner, and we develop a lot of national security intelligence, out of Tactical Rabbit. So that information needs to go places. But yeah, so anyways, I think that crystallizes me somewhat. I hope I did somewhat of a good job there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hugely complicated story, and it seems like you're getting bounced around from one big event to another. But as far as the HBC money laundering scam, people can look that up in Dark Money and Private Spies, the Everett Stern story. Now, was Charles McGonigal your point of contact during that money laundering whistleblowing?
No, that's a good question. So what happened with HSBC and Charles McGonigal, this is interesting. Most people don't know this. So and by the way, you can also find the HSBC money laundering scandal story in Rolling Stone magazine, and also Netflix did a movie called Dirty Money, episode 4, Cartel Bank, which I'm featured in. They actually interviewed me in the movie on Netflix, and it's done by Alex Gibney, who's just a great director. The whole thing was just fantastic. But anyways. So Charles McGonigal was not my POC back in 2010, 2012. The FBI wanted to make another run at HSBC to try to get bankers in jail. So let me take a step back for a second. So after the Senate hearings and the fine occurred at HSBC, I went down to D.C. and met with this congresswoman named Maxine Waters.
Sure.
And I met with Maxine Waters, and I gave her my HSBC intelligence, and we had a huge discussion about, about a bill she was working on. So I helped her with this bill, and it's a bill, that basically holds bankers accountable. It was a bill that allows FinCEN to arrest bankers. Basically, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it.
Okay.
And it was fantastic. And I disagree with Maxine on some political issues. That doesn't matter. I mean, we got to always cross the aisle and help help preserve democracy and try to help the United States in any way possible. But anyways, so after that was done, the FBI wanted to try to use that bill and try to go after HSBC again in 2018. So when they said the deferred prosecution agreement was 5 years and it was over in 2017, the FBI wanted to take new action against HSBC Bank. So there was some intelligence going into the FBI. I don't know what it was, but what McGonigal was interested in. I was introduced to McGonigal by another FBI agent who was recently arrested. But Charles McGonigal was my POC then at that period of time, and he called for a meeting in New York at the New York FBI field office. So I went to the New York FBI field office in 2018, and I'll never forget. There's this giant boardroom with all these blue chairs with the FBI symbol on them and everything. And I met with a lot of executives of the FBI, especially at the New York field office, and also prosecutors from Southern District of New York. And they were, again, very interested in going after HSBC, but they were mostly interested in how HSBC was violating sanction laws and how they were able to get money to terrorists and drug cartels. So, and that was because they were manipulating they were criminally manipulating the wire filter at the bank. So, for instance, if you had a filter, right? The OFAC is the Office of Foreign Assets and Control. If they list a company, so for instance, the company I saw, one of the many was called Tajco, Tajco. So, in order for the bank to screw up the wire filter, they would put in TAJ.co or TAJ-CO, and it wouldn't match with the wire filter. So the payment, so you assume saying it needed an exact match, and it wouldn't work.
Gotcha.
So so I was explaining this to Bureau, which they understood before, which kind of confused me. But McGonigal was very interested and his people were very interested in the sanctions part of all this, right? And now, when I found out when he was arrested, what pisses me off is that they're saying this goes back to 2018. So, my concern here, because the FBI ended up not pursuing action against HSBC Bank again. Now, what pisses me off and what makes me livid is that, I believe with a very high degree of confidence Charlie McGonigal squashed it because he was working with Oleg Deripaska at the time. We now know now. And Oleg Deripaska had bank accounts at HSBC, from my understanding, from the records I have. And also, Oleg Deripaska was paying McGonigal. So, my POC, this guy who's calling this meeting about HSBC Bank,
right,
which is the bank. They have a bank in Moscow. They have a bank. I mean, this is the banks. This is how the oligarchs move money and launder money throughout the world. And so I have to wonder to myself, did McGonigal play a role in that? And I don't know if I certainly don't think the DOJ is looking into that or investigating that because they don't know about it. And obviously I can't go to the FBI because I already did, and my information went to the Russians, so I'm a little nervous who I can trust. I will say, though, just as a side note here, that I do believe overall, the FBI is good. I'm not slamming the FBI here. I've known a lot of really good agents over the years that I've worked with, and they're solid people. But McGonigal, the problem with him is that he's so powerful and influential that there's so many agents that went along with him and they're loyal to him. And that's the problem. It's finding these other agents. And I know some of them. I know some of these people. But basically, to circle back around to your question, HSBC is one thing I question, and the other thing I question is with General Flynn. Was my information messed up there? Which hurt me in the lawsuit, and there were some problems with the FBI in dealing with Flynn, and the January 6th committee had some issues there. And what did McGonigal do then? Even though he left office at that time, he was still. You have to understand, even though McGonigal left office, he was still very influential and could pick up the phone and cause serious damage, or he could influence other agents. So what's also concerning to me, and the question that I have, which is reasonable for me to raise, is okay. So what was put in my file that caused the FBI to go cold on me when I was supposed to meet Flynn at the Omni Hotel in Dallas? The FBI, I was working with certain very high up FBI agents, and they went cold on me right before I met with Flynn. And I didn't go meet with Flynn because I needed to be sourced in order to do that. I'm not going to go meet with General Flynn without being sourced. But so I hope that answers your question. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No. You're fine. You're fine. And the thing to keep in mind is we're not going to be able to cover all this in 1 hour, okay? So we're definitely going to have you come back. But the main thing is tomorrow on May 9th at 4 p.m., 5th Avenue and 42nd Street, Everett Stern is doing a press conference and where he's going to lay all this out for the media. So we need people to show up. EverettStern.com is a website. Everett Stern #1 is Twitter. Now, Mr. Stern, HSBC, when you became a whistleblower for HSBC, did you receive a reward for the work you did? A monetary reward?
That's right. So technically a whistleblower is allowed to get 30% of the fine. So I can't say whether or not I got a reward there. There's certain legal things in place, but so I can't comment on whether or not I received money from that. But what I will tell you is that I didn't do anything, for money or without. I didn't even know about a whistleblowing claim until actually after I reported to the agency. I mean, I was spying on that bank for a good year. I didn't file as a whistleblower or anything until actually I met with Reuters when they were about to go public with the story. The reporter said to me, Everett, you should cover your butt. You should file a whistleblowing claim. And this was in 2011, this was after I even left the bank. So, I didn't even know about whistleblowing or a claim or anything. It was just, later on. But, yeah, so.
Where you are today in 2023, looking back, would you still blow the whistle on HSBC, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, 100%,
okay.
without hesitation. Because you have to understand, after I blew the whistle on HSBC, I was blacklisted from the financial community. I couldn't get a job. I ended up as a waiter at P.F. Chang's. I went from working in a Chinese bank to a Chinese restaurant. And I didn't even have enough food to survive. I was living in a 350 square foot apartment, 400 square foot apartment. I was sleeping on a cot. I had a plastic fold-out table from Walmart for 1995 as my desk. There's photos of this on Twitter. I can post them again. But I was living in horrible with cockroaches. Horrible. I lost everything as a result of me blowing the whistle. And yeah, I would do it again because it was the right thing to do. Now, what I will say is where I failed in my mission is that I didn't care about them getting fined or, because what ended up happening was HSBC stock went up, and and it turned out that Comey, I believe, later on was part of advising HSBC or something. I don't know, but what ended up happening was HSBC stock went up, and then people got bonuses. Wow. And the key thing here is that not one banker went to jail, and that's where I believe I fail. I don't think I was successful in the HSBC money laundering scandal. A lot of people think I am, and they say all these great things about me or whatever, but I don't think I was successful because I needed to lock somebody up because I knew they were intentionally getting money to, especially terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, where Hezbollah was, the money was going to making the IEDs to blow up our troops. Mm. So I don't think people who supply finances for IEDs to blow up our troops should be allowed to not be in jail. I still can't figure out how that works.
Yeah, and if you can override that with a simple dash within the labeling there, that's by no accident. That kind of stuff is by design. they can develop software that will block that. Okay,
Yeah, it was absolutely disgusting what I saw there, and I just but it set me on based on what I saw there. It really did set my life path because. It was, I did the right thing in HSBC. I know that. And I decided to myself, you know what? It's no matter the consequences, I'm going to continue just to do the next right thing over and over again to the best of my ability. And I make mistakes, don't get me wrong. But and if I see something, I'll say something and try to be, as good as a person as possible in that regard. Again, I'm not perfect. That's just imagination. I promise you that. But my wife can certainly tell you that one. Right. But the doing the right thing is important, and being able to deal with the consequences of doing the right thing, because a lot of people, they don't believe you at first. Yeah. There's backlash to all this stuff. And I'm sure even with McGonigal, I'm sure there's people who are skeptical or this or that. But look, I have hundreds of pages of emails, intel reports, documents. So I'm not concerned, but it's when you put yourself out there like that, it's a huge risk.
I totally agree. Now, I'd love to have you back just to talk about dark money and private spies, the Everett Stern story, and you could find that on everettstern.com. And also he has a Substack too there where he writes about articles and stuff. Now, the next stage of this, I guess, was your interaction with Michael Flynn, where he tried to hire you to dig up dirt on electors. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So what Flynn was up to was, so I had a couple of his operatives approach me at when I was giving a speech at a GOP event, and they approached me saying there was a national security issue, and I asked them. I said, "What's the national security issue?" and they said that Biden was president of the United States. and that was a huge problem for me because even though I was running as a Republican, look, I'm a reasonable guy. I mean, now I'm an independent. I broke off from the party, but I'm a reasonable guy. I mean, President Biden is the president of the United States. So, but these people just adamantly did not believe that. So, but they to put it in a nutshell, what they wanted to do was use TaskRabbit's resources, because I had former CIA and FBI agents working for me, to be able to dig up dirt, to blackmail certain politicians, judges, different people, to push people towards the audits to flip Pennsylvania to be able to say that Donald Trump won the election. And I was also told to do this by this billionaire out of Texas who was financing the whole operation. And this push was also going on. They wanted my help in Michigan, Pennsylvania, where I was running for U.S. Senate, and I had access to different people. Obviously, I didn't do anything for Flynn's people. I just kind of played along with it and tried to gather intel and went to the FBI and then later testified to the January 6th committee about it. But what I was told by one of Flynn's operatives was that we will accomplish the mission by any means necessary, including the use of domestic terrorism.
Wow.
That's what I was told, which was, I would never forget that my entire life. And that was my driving force in going after Flynn, which was extremely dangerous because there's a lot of right-wing extremist groups out there. And, Flynn is running that whole QAnon movement that's going on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nutcases. And it was risky. And, for him to sue me for $250 million, for me to counter, I was livid with that whole lawsuit, and the outcome of it I was even more livid about because my insurance company, I activated my insurance company to help defend me,
right.
Which was actually Progressive, and what they did was they settled with Flynn, not based off the merits of the case. They ended up settling with Flynn and gave him $150,000 to go away, and I was furious with this, and I called up the insurance company screaming, and they said to me, Everett, listen, it's a business decision. If we can get rid of a $250 million judgment for $150K, we're going to do it. And they said, we highly suggest you roll up your counterclaim with us because you don't have the resources or the capability to fight Flynn and Trump's lawyers. They have unlimited resources, Everett. They were like, you're going to lose, and they're going to crush you. And so they said, just end the lawsuit. But I was very, I'll be honest with you, I got very depressed after that and was upset because I knew my evidence was strong. But you know what? I was told by a very high person in government who I respect dearly that, Everett, there's some dragons you just can't slay, and let the DOJ do their job. So that's where I leave the issue with Flynn. The DOJ has all my evidence, and so does the FBI, and God willing, they do their job and they investigate appropriately.
And I'm assuming this was errors and omissions insurance that covered this.
No, it was actually my renter's policy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because my renter's policy, I bought a slander and libel rider on it for $9.99, and Progressive sells this all day long because they want to make money,
right.
But they didn't actually think they're going to have to use it, especially against General Flynn. You should have heard the conversation I had with them when I filed the initial claim. They were like, "You're going up against General Flynn." It was a pretty funny. They didn't believe me. Then when they did believe me, they were like, "Oh crap, we actually have to defend this."
Oh my God, I would love to hear that conversation. Now, you mentioned that Flynn is running Q. Do you have any kind of inside information of your knowledge of Flynn involvement with Q?
No, I don't have any direct intelligence that he's running Q or is Q or something like that. I honestly don't know. My statement before was in regards to, look, he's on a lot of QAnon. Yeah. He raises a lot of money from the QAnon movement. He's constantly flashing that Q sign. He's obviously engaged with these people. He's using the QAnon. He's putting out this information, doing psyops. The guy, he is involved with that movement. As to what level or capacity, is he Q or something? That I don't know. I can't tell you. But I'm trying to stick solely with facts. Besides my beliefs, but we all know for a fact. He is manipulating these very sick individuals and getting money from them, which is a shame.
He's up to his neck in all of this stuff. Now, when they were trying to retain you, were they offering you financial compensation?
Yes, yeah, and I never took it. There was supposed to be financial compensation. There was supposed to be financial compensation. I never took any money from them or did anything for them. I never provided them with actual intel. Nothing. I would have loved to have gone that far and met with General Flynn at the Omni Hotel in Dallas where he wanted to meet me. I would have loved to have done all that, but again, the FBI didn't source me, and I needed to go public with the information. That's why I held this big press conference a year ago about General Flynn and what happened, because I wanted to make sure the American public understood, because once that person told me that domestic terrorism was on the table, I had to get that information out to the public and hit the fire alarms. I just had to do it because, God forbid, let's say some right-wing extremist takes a U-Haul truck with fertilizer and blows something up. That's on me. I mean, I have to make sure I'm alerting people.
Yeah, that would be hugely traumatic for the rest of your life if you're responsible for something like that. If you had knowledge and you share it. Now, what about what was the money, substantial money they were offering you, or was it just kind of, hey, do us a favor?
No. It would have been substantial compensation and probably an ongoing engagement in gathering opposition research on different targets. But the two targets I were given to go after were Brian Fitzpatrick, who's a congressman in Pennsylvania, and Senator Toomey. And now Senator Toomey was more of a secondary target, though. He wasn't a primary. He was more. He wasn't as. They weren't, because he was leaving office, so they weren't. But he had influence though with other people. So. But the real primary target was Brian Fitzpatrick, because he's a very moderate Republican in Pennsylvania, and could have made a huge difference if he would have went for those audits.
Are you aware?
And also, if I could say, Doug Mastriano, who ran for governor, he was heavily involved with this also, and Flynn's people were helping Doug Mastriano, and they were backing my Senate opponent, Kathy Barnett. Flynn was endorsing her and backing her, and we can all remember from her that she loaded up buses of people to attack the Capitol back on January 6th, which is disgusting. And she's being backed by absolute treason there. I mean, you can't load up buses to attack the Capitol. That's not appropriate. I don't think someone should be running for Senate doing that. But that's besides the point.
Are you aware of them approaching any other opposition research types to do this type of work in other campaigns or other electors?
Yeah. So the New York Times did a story called "Michael Flynn Still at War," and that was done by Robert Draper, who's a really brilliant journalist who wrote the story. And what the New York Times said, and they vetted out my story as well. I was in the New York Times in this article, and what I'm talking about, and what the New York Times found out was that, which was different than some other articles, was that there was another guy running for Congress down in Virginia who was the former chief of station for the CIA for a certain chief of station, and apparently he was approached and he was told the same thing about something along the lines of domestic terrorism or being able to use violence to get people towards these audits. So there was a secondary person who was also approached, and that's what actually led to the New York Times doing the story, because initially, the editors were like, well, he said, she said, some of this, we have a lot of evidence, but we need something to push it over the edge, and that was it. When we had a secondary person who was saying what I was saying, that was especially high up at the agency, that was a big deal.
Now, I forget where I read this. Maybe it was Wikipedia, but that you also claim that Flynn told you he had foreign intelligence that was involved in all this too as well.
Yeah. I mean, I was told by Flynn Ops Flynn operatives that they wanted to use domestic former intelligence officers and also foreign intelligence officers to help with these, to help in getting these audits, in favor of Donald Trump. So Flynn was on it. So to put it in a nutshell, Flynn was on a mission here, and I believe Trump was heavily involved in this and financing and ordering Flynn to do this, was a huge effort to overturn the 2020 election in favor of Donald Trump after January 6th occurred. And that's very, very important, because right now what's really being looked at is what happened at January 6th, not what happened after. And now I think you're going to start seeing the investigations and the government shift towards doing work during investigations of what happened after January 6th. And if you notice on Flynn's subpoena to the January 6th committee, it does mention what happened on January 6th and after. So, because when I testified to the January 6th committee, General Flynn was subpoenaed 3 days later.
What do you think about the January 6th investigation? Do you think everything's coming out?
No, because I know that, for instance, my information is not come out. I know that's being kept under wraps right now. And I know there's a lot of other information that's not being disclosed. But look, that's what the government has to do, though. They have to play things close to the vest, and they certainly don't want Trump's people and Flynn's people getting a hold of this information to use against them. Me personally, I think Flynn sued me for the $250 million, not for the $250. I think Flynn launched a lawsuit against me to try to figure out what evidence I had against him going to the DOJ. I think that's why he sued me. That's the only logical conclusion. But what Flynn doesn't know, which he needs to know now, is that the information that was given to my lawyers, that were given to Flynn's lawyers, I did not provide all the information necessary. I'm out to protect the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So I don't give a crap what a court says. I'm giving the real information to the DOJ and the FBI, and I don't care if I withhold information from in a court, it's in a civil court proceeding, because this is what I'm talking about is criminal and is in violation of the United States Constitution.
Have you ever taken that oath?
No.
Okay.
No. I've never worked for the government in any capacity.
Okay, and also, too, now, you mentioned Flynn, foreign agents. Which foreign governments were these? Do you know?
So what was mentioned to me was, using, former Mossad agents, MI6, Russians. I mean, this was,
Really?
they're out for, yeah, absolutely. They're 100% out for, to get mercenaries to help them in accomplishing the mission. In fact, Eric Prince with, the other guy who owns a private intelligence agency like mine, he New York Times did a story, I believe Mazzetti did this, I think, from the New York Times, another brilliant reporter. He opened up operations in Wyoming, and they were training intelligence officers there. And it's like, okay, so to be used in this effort in overturning the election, but it's like, okay, why would you get all these foreign intel people and former domestic intel people and even regular soldiers and start training them in intelligence to be used against the American public, and this is occurring on U.S. soil? I mean, you should read that New York Times article. It's pretty crazy. I don't know the title of it, but I mean, it's pretty wild what's happening. Our democracy is a real danger here, real danger, and that's why I broke off from the Republican Party, because I feel the Republican Party is against democracy, and even though I might believe in some Republican policy, I'm certainly not in favor of harming our democracy in any way, shape, or form. And I think these people need to go to jail. I mean, I don't care if they're in politics or not. I mean, public corruption has to end. And one thing that bothers me the most, what I never understood, is I don't understand how a congressman gets into office worth $100,000 and he leaves office worth $10 million.
Yeah.
It's not right, and that's public corruption. And that's what's happening at the FBI now. We're seeing it in the whole McGonigal case.
Before we get heavily into McGonigal, once again, tomorrow on May 9th at 4 o'clock, 5th Avenue and 42nd Street, Everett Stern is having a press conference where he's going to be unloading all the dirt on Charles McGonigal. But back to Flynn for a second. On your website, everettstern.com, you have the official Michael Flynn report to the DOJ. What are we going to find in there that we should pay attention to, that you want us to know?
Yeah, so the critical things in there is I put in communications with Flynn operatives, and I put in things in there that the public can see, and I blacked out everything that the DOJ needed. So, I couldn't release that information. I also had other information that was not included in there that I had to give to the DOJ. But overall, when people see that they need to look at it, it's not read like a book. They have to look at it from an investigation standpoint. So there's even a photo in there of this guy, Ivan Reichland, who was Flynn's right-hand man and general counsel. And there's, a picture with Velma Ann Ruth, one of the Flynn operatives, and this guy, Mark Still, who's a Flynn operative. And there's a picture of them sitting at a table in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, with a map of Pennsylvania and all the different counties. And then next to them, Ivan Reichland's holding all these photos of different politicians. And that's a very damning photo, because it's like it shows what I'm talking about. They sent that photo to me, showing to me what they're doing. I mean, they were creating target packages on different politicians, which is insane.
Yeah, incredible. You can just imagine if they're doing this, they must be doing it against reporters, against other people sitting in Congress, and people wonder why you have guys, like Sessions and Matt Gaetz, who are so supportive. You just imagine the kind of dirt out there.
Yeah, and look, one of the problems in journalism right now is that Flynn keeps suing everybody to and all these editors for all these news organizations. The journalists have tons of dirt on Flynn, and I'm sure it could be released, but they're afraid to do it because they're afraid of a lawsuit. They don't want to get sued, and the newspapers are losing money. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to, it's very difficult for reporters to get out stories, especially on someone like Flynn, who's very litigious. It's just extremely difficult.
Now, who sued you? Sidney Powell?
No, it was the McGonigal Group, which is these lawyers who are Trump and Flynn lawyers. I mean, these guys, and they have unlimited resources, Trump and Flynn. I mean,
well, they don't pay their lawyers. They don't have to pay their lawyers.
No, they're getting all the money from the QAnon people, so it's no problem.
Oh, my God. EverettStern.com. Now, Everett, you have a press conference tomorrow, 4 p.m., 5th Avenue, 42nd Street on May 9th. It's all about Charles McGonigal. Take us through the whole. We have 14 minutes left, about 15 minutes. Take us through the whole Charles McGonigal story.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm nervous with this press conference. I get nervous sometimes with this stuff because, if I screw this press conference up, it's going to harm democracy, because I have to make sure this story gets out there and people understand it. And so I have a big challenge ahead of me here. And I'm definitely nervous about it, but I have to pull it off. But anyways, so Charles McGonigal was my POC, right? So I have evidence that I believe with a very high degree of confidence that Charles McGonigal was not helping Oleg Deripaska just in 2018. It goes back to 2015. So back in 2015, Charles McGonigal was still an active FBI agent. I believe he was feeding information to another private intelligence agency owned by a guy who's best friends with Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister. I don't want to name this individual just yet. I will be. And also this other FBI agent who was recently arrested as well. And the issue here is that, I was approached back in 2015 to help Oleg Deripaska with finding assets, going after people, even hunting down a diamond that he lost. I posted the diamond on Twitter, an actual photo of it. And also, he was going after a publicly traded company. The stuff he was doing was illegal. So what they asked me to do is to help Oleg Deripaska, this one who's now former arrested FBI agent. And what people don't know is that this guy, who I'm going to name, I can't name him right now, I apologize, but he he was best friends with McGonigal, best friends. So this person, we'll call him Person A, he introduced, I believe with a very high degree of confidence, what the DOJ doesn't know, is that Deripaska was introduced to Charles McGonigal by this former FBI agent A. And this person is the missing piece of the puzzle that the DOJ doesn't have. They don't understand the connections, not connecting the dots. But anyways, when I was asked to provide intelligence, I'm not going to help the Russians. So what I did, which is probably going to get me sued here, and I don't really care, is I provided some real intelligence to Deripaska's people, because I couldn't defraud them, but I provided intelligence that wouldn't harm the United States. But mostly I provided them BS. So I gave them a lot of BS intel and just not a lot of great work. And I provided the real intelligence to the Central Intelligence Agency. But also I provided it to the FBI, which is concerning to me because this way McGonigal gets a hold. It's a circular loop here, right? So we have a huge problem because I didn't at the time in 2015 I didn't understand the relationship between McGonigal and this former FBI agent A. And McGonigal was brought up to me a number of times over the years as being a good friend. But I didn't connect the dots. I didn't figure it out. It wasn't until McGonigal was arrested and I started reading and understanding the sanctions violations and how Deripaska was helping McGonigal and giving him, paying him so much money. That's how I understood. That's how I then connected everything up. But the question is, again, what did McGonigal put in my file? How did he hurt me with the FBI? The question is not only to me, what is the damage that McGonigal did, but the real question is, how deep and how bad, how many sources were burned and given to the Russians? How many people got killed as a result of McGonigal's actions? Over the years, it's kind of like a Hansen type story. How deep does this go, and the rabbit hole go, and we don't know. But what I will be exposing are these individuals, and also, there's one individual named in the grand jury who who's named as helping Deripaska and helping McGonigal. But what a lot of people don't know that I know is that this guy was a CIA operative. I'm going to name him too. I'm going to out him also. And he wasn't a blue badger. He wasn't someone who worked the agency directly. He was a contractor, but still, he still worked at Langley. And so this type of person helping out McGonigal is just unacceptable. We have to understand McGonigal is the head of counterintelligence. He knows a lot of FBI people and CIA people, but from my understanding, the CIA absolutely hated McGonigal. And I'm not going to name who's making statements to me, but from what I was told from a very high up person was that McGonigal was not a liked individual amongst the agency people. But there are a couple. Again, he did have tremendous influence. There are FBI agents that are loyal to him, and there are some former CIA people I know for a fact are loyal to him also. And again, from him, and McGonigal has his company in Albania, shared with certain individuals. I mean, that I'm going to name out also. It's like it's like out of a movie, right? It's a movie type scenario. But I have to come forward with this because the information I have against Deripaska is significant and against McGonigal is significant, and also linking this person A to the story is absolutely critical. And it's something that I'll be honest with you. I mean, the second I do this press conference, or these people see this stuff on Twitter, I mean, my life is going to be in absolute danger. I'm not just saying that out of paranoia. I'm saying it realistically, because these people are going to want to make sure I keep my mouth shut, because it's going to land a lot of people in jail for a long time.
No, I agree. One question I have for you is, do you have all this written out in a report that you can send to the House Intelligence Committee and other places?
I have everything. I have hundreds of pages of documents. I have all the original emails.
Yeah, but is it in report form that if I ask you right now, hey, Everett, can you send me this report? You have it in a report?
Yes. So okay. I can send you the report that I provided to Deripaska's people even.
Right.
That was, and you can read that and see it. And there's also a situation in dealing with Israel and dealing with certain targets against certain individuals. I posted their business cards actually on Twitter, and these are Iranian, tier 1 targets of the United States that I think this individual was trying to help Benjamin Netanyahu with. That kind of falls into the story as well,
yeah.
But that's not more. It's a little more of a digression. There's so many tentacles to this. It's hard to wrap it all up.
Oh, no. You can come back anytime you want. You can come back anytime you want.
Oh, thank you.
There's so much here we got to cover. We could just spend a whole couple hours just on dark money. Quick questions. You said you're afraid of being sued. You would be sued by Deripaska?
I'm sure Deripaska will launch a lawsuit. I'm sure Person A will launch a lawsuit. I'm sure the head of this other private intelligence agency will launch a lawsuit. I'm sure Flynn will launch something again. And look, these people can sue me all they want. I honestly, I don't care, because look, this is I don't even care if I get judgments on me. They're not going to be able to collect. I'm not going to pay anyone a dime. But the point is that these people can try to use lawfare and sue me and try to stretch things out. My mission, my main objective here is to protect that United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't care about lawsuits. I don't care about people coming after me. I just don't care. Let Russian SVR intelligence come after me, which I know I'm already targeted for them, because I had a Russian diplomat already sue me a year ago over me calling him a spy, and you can see that online. And look, I have to do what I have to do to protect the United States and the American people, and that's what I'm going to do. And I don't care what risks I have to take to do it.
Okay, real quick, we only got about 4 minutes. The former FBI agent, the best friend of McGonigal, if we heard his name, would we recognize his name?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when people you see the right wing talking points, they're saying, "Well, look at this. They're talking Trump, Russia, and here are the FBI agents investigating him are working for Russia." What do you say to them? They like.
No, so like my comment again, going back to what I said before, I want to make very clear to the American people here, if we're listening to this, that the FBI, again, there's corruption everywhere, right? There's corruption in NYPD. There's corruption, in every police department, everywhere. Every organization has some level of corruption. In the FBI, there should be zero corruption, but at the same time, we're going to always have some, right? But the ideal situation is zero. But I hold the FBI still to the highest regard. I think there's a lot of agents out there doing their best, trying to do a good job, protecting the United States Constitution as well. And I know agents that would give their life in a second to defend the United States, and I think they're doing a great job against Trump. What Trump did was absolutely illegal, and I hope he goes to jail. And I think the FBI investigating Trump, it's people say now, the FBI is weaponized. And it's a shame McGonigal did this, because he tarnished and harmed the FBI. But I do not believe that the FBI is weaponizing and targeting people. McGonigal did. I mean, he opened up investigations against Americans, to my understanding, he shouldn't have done, to try to harm them. Maybe I'm one of them. I don't know. But I think that. Overall, what the FBI stands for and what a lot of 99.9% of the FBI agents out there are doing is good. I do believe that. I have to believe that.
Yeah.
I'm going up against that 0.1%. That's what I'm up against, is those bad apples.
Well, if anybody's weaponized, it seems like it's because of people like Deripaska that are spreading money around and can buy everybody, their loyalty. And their silence and their cooperation. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, some people will cave to money, and others will hold their values and their morals and being an American and not accept Russian money like that. But and I believe the majority of FBI agents would hold those pure core values. I really do. And they would not be able to be bought. But again, we're talking about the 0.1% of people out there who are being bought. And the problem, though, is that if you have 0.1% being bought, the influence and the damage they can cause in our system, our financial system, and our law enforcement agency, it is tremendous. But so that point, that's the problem.
But where can Everett Stern go with this information? That there's going to be someone who's going to say, okay, with Everett, we're taking this information, we're going to solve this problem. What body of government is that?
I mean, what should be happening
Public opinion?
is the DOJ. Right, it's going to have to be. Look, I'll be honest with you. I trust Twitter right now over the FBI, but because I don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Again, the FBI overall I believe in, but I don't know who to trust. But yeah, it's going to be public. The public pressure on this there has to be a fire there has to be a fire ignited that's going to put pressure. Journalists have to do stories. And it's that public pressure that should hopefully cause the Senate Intelligence Subcommittee to take action. That's the real body with this. If the Senate Intelligence Subcommittee gets involved, then and starts doing investigations, which they are opening up investigations into some people I'm going to name at this press conference, that can cause real damage to McGonigal's infrastructure of who he's influenced, and they can start they can start finding more rats. But this is going to come down to the public, and that's why I'm releasing information the way that I'm doing it. And it's going to come down to people also doing the right thing. I mean, look, as Einstein said, the world's not going to be taken down by people who do evil. The world's going to be destroyed by those who watch and do nothing. So I need people to listen to this and take action with me.
Everett Stern. EverettStern.com. You could follow Everett Stern on Twitter at Everett Stern, the numeral 1 at Twitter. The books are Dark Money and Private Spies, the Everett Stern Story. Another one is Official Michael Flynn Report to DOJ. You can check out his Substack at EverettStern.com. His company is Tactical Rabbit. Seems like a very capable guy. Okay, if you need this kind of work, though, this guy seems to be very capable at doing this kind of work, man, if you need somebody out there. Tomorrow, May 9th, 4 o'clock, 5th Avenue and 42nd Street. He's doing a press conference where he's naming names that he won't even name here. Mr. Stern, you can come back anytime you want, okay?
Oh, thank you, sir. It's an absolute honor, and I appreciate you giving me the platform to be able to inform the American public about the truth, so thank you.
I hear you, man. Listen, you got my prayers, okay? And God's protection on you there, because this is not an easy road you're on here, my friend.
Yeah, no. This is going to be an uphill fight, an uphill battle. But again, I think I'm going to end up taking some major punches to the face. But again, this is just something I have to.
I get it.
I get it.
I know. I get it. Okay, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.